Hello YouTube and welcome back. It's me, Fruit Guru. I hope you're all taking care of yourselves, and as always, I hope you're enjoying the grind in Ragnarok Labyrinth. I did actually make one of these counting cards series videos yesterday. I covered the Condor card, which is interesting. If you haven't seen it, maybe check it out. But I did say in that video, when I was comparing it to other cards in the Manto slot, that I really wanted a Lady Tanee. And I actually managed to get one. I just put up a video on how to reroll an alt account, or even a main account if you haven't started yet. But my intention was to keep re-rolling till I actually got this Lady Tanee card, so I wouldn't have to go to market and pay full price for it. So I just swapped it over to my main, and I was eventually successful. So if that's something that interests you, go into my main profile there, check it out. It's pretty easy to do, and you're basically guaranteed, as long as you put the time in, to get your chase item. So here's what I managed to pull. This is my Lady Tanee card, and at a glance this thing looks absolutely bonkers broken, because not only does it have skill cooldown on it, which is just so sought after by a lot of builds, and it's really nice, but it also has this cast recovery support on basic attack with a nice high chance to proc, especially the way mine was rolled. But to be honest with you, this card isn't as bonkers broken as I had kind of presumed it would be. And we'll talk about it a little bit now. So, the magic defense line at the top here, I think if you've watched my videos by now, you kind of know that this is the filler bar. It doesn't really matter much. Base magic defense or base anything is kind of often underwhelming. And this is no exception here. So, it's a nice to have. When we level the card up a bit, we'll get a bit of a chunk from it, but it's not going to be anything to write home about. The second bar now, I think, is what you really look for with this card. And this is because it's got a pretty nice chunk of skill cooldown reduction. Now, there are other cards that offer it, but not this much from the get-go, and this is going to scale up pretty nicely over time. And that's, I think, what you're really chasing this card for. And initially, I had thought it was going to be the cast recovery support on basic attack, but this is actually a little bit underwhelming, and I'm going to go into why now. So let's hide this for a second, and let's bring up the actual passive here. So this is what we get from the Tanee card, level 1 recovery support. Now, the first thing you probably noticed when we looked at the base card was that this had a big chance to proc, and it does, but it's very similar to the Earthquake spell on the Ifrit card we covered, where even though it had such a big proc chance, it's limited by its cooldown, and in this case it's a 25-second cooldown. That is massive. That is massive compared to a lot of other things. And now, we do, of course, if you're slotting this card, you're probably going to be investing in cooldown reduction in general. So it's not going to be that big when you're kind of fully built, but it's still pretty big. And let me tell you, I mean, I've got a good bit of cooldown reduction on my stuff now. I'm not capped out, but I don't notice this proc that much, especially on a build where you're procking a lot of other kind of auto spells. It's not very reliable. And this was probably the first thing that kind of made me think, okay, not as shiny and as cool as I'd hoped it to be. The next thing is, if we actually look at the damage that this thing puts out, it's pretty low. And I mean, yeah, okay, even if you scale a lot of magic damage, 25%, it's not the worst thing out there, or physical 37.5, a little bit more generous for them. But the actual HP drain itself, only 15%. And this is really lackluster, and I'm going to bring up the biggest contender that you're probably all thinking about when I'm talking about this, and that is the Drain Liar card. So if we take a look at it here, this has a Drain Life passive. The cooldown is quite lower, 5 seconds lower than recovery support. The range is the same, but look at these modifiers here. The magic damage much higher, the physical damage much higher again. I've just noticed that these aren't consistent. You'd think they'd all have like one of the types of damage at the top, and then physical damage second or whatever, but they're obviously a little bit disorganized. Just a little comment, not the end of the world, just an observation, I guess. But yeah, then we go into the HP drain, and this is 4 times the strength. So this is going to be proccing more in general, and it's going to be healing a hell of a lot more. So what does that mean? I had initially thought that my Tanee get was going to basically mean that I wouldn't have to get the Drain Liar card, God almighty, because I'd figured, you know, recovery is recovery and this was going to carry me. I actually have been so unlucky with my shop refreshes. I haven't got a Drain Liar yet, and I'm really apprehensive about like spending 500 row points for it, but I think that's just going to have to be the case. And yeah, as I said, I thought Tanee was going to basically remove my need for this card, but that is not the case at all. And I can't see it ever being the case, no matter how high I scale up my magic damage, because the base drain on it is just so low. So I think this is going to work really, really nicely with the Drain Liar card in tandem, but I don't see it being a replacement by any means. I mean, yeah, it's just the sustain just isn't there. And it's just not going to be doable, and that's basically all there is to say about this card. I'm actually a little bit let down. Don't get me wrong, I still think this is a really, really nice card, but I did misunderstand what its actual intended use was for, and I'm going to bring it back up here. It's going to be the skill cooldown reduction. That's the stat that really matters here. The recovery support is a nice to have, but just do not count on it being the kind of survival steroid your build's going to need, because that's not going to be the case. Even if you're like boss pushing or something like this, the reality is you're probably only going to get out a handful of these during the fight, maybe 2 or 3, and that's not enough to really warrant it being chased just for this specific purpose. So with that said and done, I think I'm actually going to end the video here. It's probably one of the shortest videos that I'll do in the counting cards series. I think if you're trying to cap out your skill cooldown reduction, by all means, get this card. It's obviously going to be one of the best cards to do it. But would I have gone back and done the 8 or 9 hours of re-rolling the account for this? Probably not, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think I would have been a little bit more patient. I think I probably would have settled on some of the other pulls I did and just sold those cards for a load of Zenny and upgraded my gear elsewhere. And that's the unfortunate truth. So yeah, your boy Fruit Guru, he definitely overestimated the value of this one. But look, I did the work for you, so now you know, it's you know not to do the 8 hours unless you really, really want some extra cooldown. So yeah, that's all there is to say there. Thank you very much as always for watching. Take care. Fruit Guru out. Bye.